Napapasong tinulak ko si Gab, taimtim ko itong tinitigan. Hilam na hilam ang mukha, nananakit ang katawan, at pagkatapos ng ilang segundo ay pumasok na ako sa loob ng kwarto. Agad na sumunod siya sa akin, napatigil ako sa kalagitnaan ng kwarto. Gab was the one who locked the door. I watched his tall frame go rigid as he looked at me, mula ulo hanggang paa. "Leave," I softly commanded. Ito na ang pinakamababa at pinakapangit kong estado. Ito ang bersyon ko ng sarili na hindi ko kayang iharap sa iba. Ang bersyong dinurog at binasag. I hope this version of myself satisfied whatever craving you searched for a long, long time. So, leave me. Gab immediately charged towards me. His large hand found my shoulders and held me tightly. Halos umangat ang buo kong katawan dahil doon. "What happened to you? Who did this?" He flinched as he touched my arm. Puno yun ng karmot. "Does it matter, Gab? What will you do then?" I looked down, eyes starting to sting my whole face once again. "Fuck! It does to me, Chris! Who fucking did this?" Gab was so fucking frustrated. Paano kung sinabi kong si Alina ito? Tatahimik ka ba at magkukunwari ulit? Dahil yun naman ang lagi mong ginagawa, di ba? Ang itanggi ako at ang pagmamahal ko sa'yo. I shouted silently, tears streaming down my face. "Damn it! Not in my life! Yun lang ang ginusto ko buong buhay ko pero ayaw ibigay sa akin. Now tell me, si Alina ang gumawa nito sa'yo? Sino pa?" "Your whole life, Gab? Your whole life of lying to me? Your whole life of trying to hide me? Your world might be the biggest, the richest ones, but the truth was, it's suffocating. Bakit nang ako ang ginawa mong mundo mo ay naging masikip at masakit para sa akin?" That was my mistake years ago, Chris. Pinagsisihan ko yun hanggang ngayon, Chris. Yes! I obeyed the plans laid out for me, thinking I'll move on, but guess what? Eto pa rin tayo. Eto pa rin ako. Ikaw pa rin. Ako pa rin. Ako pa rin ang hindi mo kayang ipagsigawan sa mundo. Nothing can ever change that. I loved a coward. Ako ang nangunguna at tumatanggap ng sakit para sa ating dalawa. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay for me. I fucking love you that much. It's fucking okay, but at least try to fight. Even just a bit because I'm too exhausted right now. Look at me. Para akong yayanigin sa mga emosyong tumatakbo sa mga mata ni Gab. At ang alam kong ang akin ay wasak na wasak na. Together, ours was the different sets and kinds of disastrous calamities. Do I look loved? Because if that's the case, your love is exhausting, selfish, angry, too toxic. Nagpapakatanga na lang ako. I bit my lips angrily. Chris, don't say that, please. Let's get you cleaned up. Nagkaroon ng panik sa mga mata ni Gab. Nagsimula siyang lumakad patungo sa akin. Mga matay nagsusumamo, ngunit umiling ako. I could get any man that I want, but it's you, Gab. Always you. So, why wasn't it always me? Every night, I ask myself, why wasn't it me? Bakit puro si Alina na lang? Sana ay ako naman, kahit sandali. Patikman ko lang ang lasa ng ipinaglaban. Pinagdaup ko ang aking mga palad sa kanyang harapan, astang nagdadasal. My fingertips touched my lips as I let him see all of me. It's true, wasn't it? Na ako yung naiinggit kaya ako nagkakaganito. Yes, it's my fault if you're like this. If you think like this, it's my failure alone, Chris. But that doesn't mean that I'll stop. Let me. Inabot ni Gab ang aking mukha at kinawit ang mga takas na buhok sa aking tainga. I let myself enjoy the tenderness in his eyes, the way it turned soft and pitiful. Awang-awa na siguro sa akin dahil kailanman ay ako lagi ang talunan. How I'll miss it the next few days, weeks, even longer. Umalis ka na, I breathed. Nanigas ang kanyang kamay sa ere bago unti-unting bumaba. Gab looked stunned. He looked at me one last time before flinching as he closed his eyes. Pagbukas noon ay umuusbong na naman muli roon ang iba't ibang banyagang emosyon. "Let's get you cleaned up," he repeated. So I let him. The exhaustion weighed on me and I let him fix me. Pagod na ako. It's depressing. I even let him tuck me in just to see for myself how desperate I was for him. Hapon na nang magising ako at wala na si Gab sa aking tabi. I opened my phone to check for messages. I found out Papa and Harold was persistent on contacting me. Lahat ng mensaheng natanggap ko ay hindi ko binasa at dinilit agad, even missed calls. Uuwi rin naman ako, mamaya. Pagkatapos magbura ng mga mensahe ay nagsulat ako ng para sa aking kapatid. Kailangan naming mag-usap. Ako ang makikipag-usap dahil sigurado akong pumutok na ang balita. After packing up, I changed into midnight black backless dress. The flowy skirt almost reached my calves and sheer material leaving little to the imagination. After calling room service, I tied my hair in a tight updo before heading out. Sa aking pag-alis ay para bang ako ang propetang pumarte sa pulang dagat. I stood out and a path was made for me as people stared at me or from my dark makeup. The seaside cafe wasn't so crowded when I arrived. Tanaw na tanaw ang kalakhan ng anyong tubig at ang mga naglalakihang building sa kabilang dulo. I spotted Alina already enjoying fruit cocktail with a Hawaiian umbrella on the side. Paano bang tingnan ang isang taong alam mong matagal mo nang niloloko? To be honest, I didn't know how. I couldn't feel her. I couldn't feel anything. Was this how Gab felt when he's looking at me? Dahil matagal na panahon na rin naman na kaming naglolokohan. It's unfair. Life was so unfair. What is this, Iha? Are you going to the beach or funeral? Isang boses na minamalat sa katandaan ang humatak pabalik ng aking atensyon. I looked at Grandma, a bit stunned at her presence. She sported a white, elegant dress with gray shawl on top. Her almost white hair was parted in perfection. Having a little secret with your dear sister, Pabalik-balik ang kanyang kumikintab na mata mula sa akin at kay Alina na nasa di kalayuan. I'm actually here to say goodbye. Aalis na po ako, I stated. So it's either her funeral or your funeral. Depende kung paano ka ba magpaalam. Grandma? Shut up! Don't call me that. I feel so old when everybody calls me that. Especially if it's an outsider. Tumaas ang kanyang kilay sa akin. Napatikom ako ng bibig. Tingin ko'y lalapain ako ng buhay ng kanyang mga ngisi. Though nothing gave her away, whether she already knew it or not. But if Alina was this chill, then nobody sang the forbidden song. How do you say goodbye to a person you'd probably never see in a million years? I blurted out before I could help myself. Whew, I said that. Si Grandma. Bumigat ang aking loob habang tinitingnan si Alina sa likod ng aking madilim na Ray-Ban. A million years is very long time, Chris dear. So why say farewell at all? Just leave with no returns, no regrets. It's the art of surprise that matters. She sighed to me, so I nodded. The sea breeze whizzed past my ears in careless whispers. Si Alina lamang ang aking tinitingnan. Naiisip ang realisasyon na humantong ako sa puntong tinawid ko ang pagmamahal kaysa sa respeto. Alam mo, nung dalaga pa si Mara ay hindi ako masyadong naghigpit dyan, lalo pat maraming manliligaw. Karapatan niyang matuto, gumalaw, and then, this gorgeous boy with the physique of a man and with the eye of a senior came. I already knew that he was different, matindig, magalang, may prinsipyo. Nilingon ko si Grandma. I watched her cold eyes turn soft, almost tender from reliving a single memory from years and years ago. That was your father, Governor Niklaus Canaveri. first look at him. And I already knew that he'll reach beyond his dreams. Hindi ako nagkamali. How badly I wanted your papa for your mama that time. Napatigil si Grandma. But things don't always go into plan, and sometimes, all we can do is to improvise. I added softly, a shock coming from Grandma's confession. Hindi normal na ganoon kalambing ang boses niya, and to think that it just came from memory, from a person. Correct. Tango ni Grandma. I improvised, and look what the fucktard from Australia your mother got. Just look at the offspring. Bagya akong napahalakhak. I'm having clues of what type of girl Grandma was on her teenage. Perfect blooming years. Child. If you're going to leave, leave quickly. Huwag ka nang magdrama pa. Drama's a waste of time and you already know that your sister is a drama queen. Now, be a good girl and say hi to your father to me. Bineso ako ni Grandma bago ako iniwan. Kahit na wala na siya ay ang kanyang matapang na pabango ay nakatayo pa rin sa aking tabi. Isang misteryo na sa akin kung alam na ba ang totoo o hindi. Alina didn't deserve any of this, I figured. She deserves the truth, but a peace of mind was much important. She'll hate me in either way. Anyway, I gave one last look at Alina even though I may forget it and I couldn't believe I'm taking Grandma's advice. I just left. Sa buhay kong ito, nasigurado ko ng isa akong mandirigma. Simula sa pagkabata at magpasa hanggang ngayon ay isa pa rin akong manlalaban. Nasusuntok, nasisipa, nabubulabog ng tadhana pero lumalaban pa rin. I was a fighter, a weak fighter, but that weakness defined a more persistent meaning. That I was, at some point in my life, strong. Because weren't we all the weak ones at the end of the day? I was born out of immoral love, a wrong yet powerful love, but to be born out of that gave my life a whole meaning. Meron namang tamang tao at panahon, ngunit ang maling daan patungo sa akin ang kanilang pinili. For my parents to choose that wrong path, to push their love even in the wrong side gave me hope. I knew for sure that once upon a time, they fought 1,000 battles just to have me. Pero, sapat ba yun upang tumulak din ako para sa kaparehong daan? Hindi. They chose that path knowing all else would fail. It's a bold move, but very selfish on their part. I had to endure all my life, to fight, to grieve. I would have adored that kind of love if it had succeeded, but it didn't. Walang tanungan pa na dapat maganap at kung mayroon man, may sagot na ako doon. Yun ay ang pag-alis sa lugar, sa tao, sa memorya, sa lahat. Nakita ko na ang aking itim na bagahe nang sa aking muling paghirit ng hininga ay mayroong pares ng mga mata kong nasipat. Itim na itim at determinado akong abutin. Suddenly, all black uniformed men surrounded me. All 4 or 5 of them formed an arc around me like a barricade as I looked up. Come with me. Gab was at the center, towering over his bodyguards. I'm already leaving, as in now, Ilingko, and I don't really want to stay here for another minute. Listen to me, Chris, please. Please come. Ang malamig na mga mata ni Gab ay unti-unting lumambot. He crouched a bit so he'll reach my eyes. Just this once. Listen. A very calm, authoritative tone. My eyes shifted to the receptionist and room boy waiting. Then my eyes shifted back to Gab. Umayos ito ng tayo at inilahad ang kamay patungo sa akin. He must have saw the pure hatred in my eyes and my defiance. At talagang hindi ako papayag. Ngunit sa isang mabilis na tangon niya sa mga bodyguards ay umikot ang mga ito sa aming dalawa at nagsilbing harang. They moved fast and I was being taken away with their flow. I cursed at Gab and every time he flinched. I said, aalis na ako. What the hell do you want? Matinding asik ko sa kanyang tainga. Gab flinched again and closed his eyes shut. A large vein protruded on the side of his forehead, signaling his distress. Nang lingunin niya ako ay hirap na hirap ang kanyang mga mata. Tila ba pinipilit na maging malamig ngunit nalilito rin. I want you to know the truth. That's useless! I already know the truth, and all this time, Gab, ngayon mo lang gustong ipagtapat? I tried to pry his hands reaching me. Why now, huh? Why now when it won't matter anymore because you're triggered by my confessions earlier? And I want them to know the truth. No more running, he added. The word itself shouldn't come out from your mouth. It's what you always do. Lie, even to yourself. Malamig kong saad. His eyes spoke of the things that was hurting him. Bakas sa mukha niya ang sakit at kalituhan, ngunit patuloy pa rin siya sa paglalakad, as if very determined that doing that might fix this. Might fix me. Wala ka nang magagawa pa, Gab. Tanggapin mo na sa sarili mo na napabayaan mo ko at hindi nirespeto. Tayong dalawa ang may kasalanan. Accept it just like I did. Tumingin ako ng diretso sa nilalakaran, taas noo pagkatapos. Tahimik kaming naglakad patungo sa ilang mga pasilyo hanggang sa naramdaman ko ang marahang paghawak ng isang kamay sa aking likod. I tried to pry it away again but his hand grasped mine in a very tight grip. Stand, I look up at him but he's already staring down silently. Ang kanyang mga mata ay namumula at pikit ng pikit. Mabilis ang pagtaas-baba ng kanyang dibdib at ang paghinga. Ang kanyang kamay na nakagapos sa akin ay tila ba sinasabing tigilan ko na dahil hindi na niya kaya ang aking mga salita. We're here. Get inside. Malamig niyang saad bago ako binitawan. I gulped down the large rock on my throat and remained hard as that rock. I was the first to enter the room, then Gab and the 3 remaining guards other than the 2 who guarded the door. Malaki ang kwarto, nasa pinakaituktok ng casino hotel. Tanaw na tanaw sa gilid ng kalakhan ng buong syudad sa isang buong pader na bintana. Pula ang malambot na carpet, namamayagpag ang chandelier sa itaas. At sa loob ng eleganteng kwarto ay nakita ko rin sina Tita Raye, Tito Jess at ang 3 kong pinsan na sina Sandy. The husband of my mother and Alina's father, Mr. Thomas, was also there. What was this? Sit down, Iha, hani Tita Ray. I look at the 2 one-seaters in front of them. Nakaupo ang 3 nakakatanda, habang ang mga naiwan ay nakadungaw sa likod ng itim na sofa. Carefully, I sat down and so did Gab. The passive faces of my relatives aside from my evil cousins made the room tensioned. I look at Mr. Thomas. Too much tension. They knew. The CCTV caught everything in that hallway. Pinunta ko yun kila Jessica at Fitz at hindi nila itinanggi. I asked for Mr. and Mrs. Jess Thomas as well as Mr. Benjamin Thomas. Gusto kong magkaharap-harap na. Gab's deep voice softly lingered in the air. He was looking at me with such finality. I could hear the gears turning in his head, never backing down. Nahugot ko ang hininga at binalik ang tingin sa mga Thomases. Sandy smirked at me. Well then, at some point in my life, this would eventually happen. Nothing could ever be done for them to forget what we did behind their backs. Might as well get this over with it. Bring it! Well, where's my sister? Si Mama at si Grandma? Diniretso ko ng tingin ang magpipinsan at ang aking mga kamag-anak. I advised Gab not to. Wag muna sa ngayon dahil reunion. Maraming nakapalibot na Thomases dito and most importantly, kailangan ng buwelo pagdating sa mag-ina. Tito Jess nodded at me. His eyes going skeptical for a moment. Tell us, how did this happen? Masama ang tingin sa akin ni Mr. Thomas. Sandy murmured something in his ear that made him turn red in anger. Sandy made a face behind them. Fuck you, Sandy. Fuck you. Wait for me later. Yun lang naiisip ko. The engagement papers of me and your daughter was a fraud, sir. Ako ang nag-utos na maging ganoon ang setup without the knowledge of my family, especially my mother. My mother may have hated Alina but she wasn't that ruthless. Gab started, looking at me every second or two. Liar. Always a liar. Fucking liar. I thought Si Eunice na ang pinakamasamang tao sa mundo. Yung anak pa pala niya. No offense, Tita Rai butted in. Though, looking entertained. Why did you do it? Bakit mo gustong lokohin ang si Alina at kami, bastard? Fitz was next. Fitz. Saway ni Tita Raya sa kanya. I don't want to have a permanent tie with a woman whose family opposes mine. I don't want to live like that. No other agendas. Sagot ni Gab. So, you don't have agendas pero si Eunice ang mayroon, tama ba? She plans still on destroying us by merging two families. The other one will stay faithful and the other one will secretly do the dirty job. Saad ni Tita Rai, tila ba mukhang kilalang-kilala ang ina ni Gab? That woman, Mr. Thomas muttered in his breath. None of this would have happened if I didn't let it. Ako ang may kasalanan at hindi si Eunice Damiano. Put all the blame on me because I'm the only Damiano here. Gab flatly stated that had everyone quiet. Sinilip ko sina Jessica na hilam ang mukha, mukhang iyak nang iyak mula kanina pa. You two, wait for me, sa isip ko. Kung gusto ni Eunice na bumagsak kaming mga Thomases, bakit hindi ko nararamdaman? Well, ngayong iba na ang CEO ay kasalanan niya na yon. But the company under Alina's care, nakaboost ang lahat. Nothing happened if not improved, si Tito Jess. I didn't push through with the liquidation, sir. Ipinasa lahat sa akin ni Alina nang siya ang umupo pero hindi ko kayo dinaya. Not a single penny. I helped Alina to get your company back in a good shape with my own firm, with my own money. Gab looked at me as if in permission. That I didn't know. Iniisip ko pa lamang na magkakasama na sila at nagtutulungan and they became successful at it. Burned me eternally. Alam kong bankrupt na ang mga Thomases at ang tanging solusyon na lamang nila ay ang pagpapakasal ng isang eredera sa isang bilyonarong pamilya. They succeeded. They're once again at the top now. All because of Gab. Sa isip ko. And you did this when you're in Ordaneta? Yung panahong kadarating mo lang ng Pinas? Away from Alina and getting to know our Chris. Tita Rai concluded. It's starting to hit me, like a light was on my path. Gab nodded and looked at me once again. My face remained passive. She's not ours, Tita Rai. Sandy interrupted. Oh, right. Sagot naman ni Tita. Where did you first met? At anong plano mo kay Chris? Bakit si Chrissy pa? Pinangunahan na ako ni Tito Jess. That question made Gab go stiff. His knuckles were slightly turning white and he looked at me once again. I too waited for his response. Bakit ako? I got curious. Alina always mentions you, finding a way for you to be the topic. Gustong-gusto si Chris ng kapatid niya. Just curious? How about the pawn? You saw me as an alas, didn't you? Hindi lamang ako isang pagkakadiskubre. Malamig kong saad. Hindi ko na maisiksik pa ang pag-iinit ng puso para kay Alina. Chris is right. Ano bang tingin mo sa sarili mo? Namamahalin ka ng isang lalaki dahil lang sa sarili mong yan? Sandy! Tito Jess exclaimed. Sandy's right, Jess. Wala namang magmamahal dyan kung ganyan ang pag-uugali ng aagaw. Mukhang aatakihin na sa galit si Mr. Thomas. He was about to get up from his seat but the bodyguards nearby moved. That made him shook his head and look at me in fury. Tinatagan ko. I admit that I saw Chris as a very destructive weapon for such prestigious family. I planned for a week to stay there in Ordaneta to really see if it could work. Pero pangatlong araw pa lamang nang nagdesisyon na akong bilhin ang pinagtatrabuhan ni Chris. Isang linggo, naging 2 at 3 until a month. I realized I was actually enjoying my stay. You fell in love? In a month? Tita Rai looked impressed. Napabasa ako ng pang-ibabang labi at sinuri si Gab. He was clenching his fist. His chest looked strained but his eyes told me different things. He looked at me and nodded to Tita Rai. Liar, 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 sa isip ko. Sa huli, ay wala akong nakakamit sa kahit anong mga planong inilaan para sa akin. I didn't touch any money of your companies and I got occupied with Chris. I was actually thinking never to go back. I already have my own firm. Hindi ko na ginusto ang parte ko sa hacienda. All that I cared about was my life in the province with a certain waitress. Stop lying, Gab! Tell them the truth! How you plan to deceive me and my sister because you're the devil himself! Tingin ko'y mababaliw na ako sa umaapaw na emosyon. Eto ang nasa utak ko. That doesn't work out like that. Gabriel, hindi mo pwedeng pangakuan ng kasal ang isang babae pagkatapos ay may kinakaharap ka palang iba. Si Tito Jess. I agree with Jess. Nagkabuhol na pero kahit baliktarin mo, it will look like it's Chris' fault. You may have stayed on the right side, but this tiny little hole you didn't patch up turned into a black hole. Sabi ulit ni Tita Rai. Si Chris naman talaga ang may kasalanan. Kung hindi siya nagpalandi kay Gab, babalik si Gab kay Alina and there will be a true engagement. Sigaw ni Jessica. I was trying to secretly dodge her by making her hate me or quit the job. But it was still me who finds a way to reach her. Ako ang may kasalanan sa amin. Jessica, Sandy, sagot ni Gab. Did you even love Alina, even just a bit? Fitz looked like he was ready to kill Gab but his words had already killed me. Binalingan ko rin siya ng tingin doon, napatingin ng lahat sa kanya para sa kanyang sagot. Ako ang unang hinanap ng kanyang mga mata at umaling siya nang walang pag-aalinlangan. Mabait na tao si Alina. Naging magkaibigan kami pagkatapos naming pag-usapan ang lahat. After Chris left and we became friends. But I couldn't put myself in that situation. I bit my lips. Hindi ko na alam kung maniniwala ba ako sa mga salita ni Gab. Was he lying again? Sa akin at sa aking mga kadugo, was this Gab or his skillful lying alone? Damn! Friends! Friends! Friends. Naging magkaibigan pa sila noong umalis ako patungong Cebu. Genuine friends or a part of his plan again. Friends. Friends and not husband and wife. All these years, you're fooling them but not me. Alam na alam ko kung nagsasama ba ang isang babae at isang lalaki sa iisang bubong. Tell me, Gab, ilang beses sa isang buwan kayo nakikita ni Alina nang umalis si Chris? Tita Rai once again asked another clever question. Once every 2 or 3 months if needed. Our secretaries are the ones communicating. A phone call is much practical method. Nagkakausap kami sa telepono ng isang beses sa isang buwan. Clever! Tita Rai shook her head. Kung minsan lamang sa ilang buwan, bakit kung umasa si Alina ay para bang nagtatabi kayo gabi-gabi? Because she missed you that much? Because she's in love with you and desperate for you too? Hindi ko alam kung anong puwersa ang nagbibigkis sa aking mga emosyon. Gusto na nitong kumawala. I felt like bursting from all of these revelations. So, are you going to push this, iho? Kailan nyo sasabihin kina Alina at Mara? And oh, Grandma, this will be a war. Pagbabanta ni Tito Jess. War had already started a long time ago, sir. Ako ang gumawa kaya ako rin ang tatapos. Gab stated and tilted his head towards my cousins. And you? Make sure that it's 3 versus 3. Touch her again and I'll withdraw my shares on your company. Oh, God. Sandy, Fitz, Jessica, apologize to Chris. It's the company we're talking about. Sabi ni Tita Rai. No! Ako? Hihingi ng tawad sa babaeng ito? She'll regret what she did to Alina. Maanghang na sigaw ni Sandy. Sandy, your mouth! Sabi pa rin ni Tita. I remained silent, still absorbing everything. Gab suddenly stood up and buttoned his vest. He stood out on the room, his eyes more captivating than the chandelier above. But most importantly, The way he carried himself dragged more attention. I was selfish and proud, a lying coward. I didn't know what to do until Chris came in and showed me the right path. I owe everything to her, and yet this is what I gave in return. Hindi ko na mapapatawad pa ang sarili ko, pero hayaan niyo po akong gumawa ng solusyon. Ako ang bubuhat sa lahat. But just so you know, it's not Alina or another girl. It's Chris that I will choose. Always. Even if she doesn't choose me right now or in another lifetime. Sabi ni Gab. Tingin ko'y dudugo na ang aking pang-ibabang labi sa kakakagat nito. Pinipigilan ko ang pag-iinit ng sulok ng aking mga mata. I was barely holding it together. I couldn't react properly. Kung tatakbo ako, o tatanggi, o tatanggap. Gab suddenly looked down at me. He crouched to my level and whispered on my ear. Just a little more. Hang on, baby. Gab pulled back, his eyes turning soft once again bago naging natural na malamig. Tita Rai clapped like a mad seal in the background and my cousins' faces turned sour. Sir Benjamin, I need to talk to you privately. Gato, Ren, Peter, bantayan niyo. Gab glanced at me one last time before heading out with his other 2 bodyguards. With Mr. Thomas, who probably killed me in his mind 1,000 times earlier. Nagpaalam na rin sina Tito Jess at Tita Raye na mukhang sumakit din ang ulo. Jessica received a call from her husband, so I was left with Sandy and Fitz. Oh, you are so dead. Hindi pa man ako nakakakurap ay sinugod na ako ni Sandy. Her talons immediately found my hair but a resounding slap on her cheek made her clutch her face. Namanhid kaagad ang aking palad ngunit sarap na sarap ako. Umiling ako kaagad sa mga bodyguards na action na agad. Get out, I don't need you. You slut! Lumalaban ka na ngayon. Sandy pointed at me. Kinuha ko ang vase sa ibabaw ng coffee table na naglalaman ng tubig. I splashed her face with its dirts. And she screamed some more. Susugurin na dapat ako ni Fitz ngunit mabilis ang aking mga bodyguard. Now it's 1 versus 1. Magaling ka lang naman kapag may kasama. Binaon ko ang aking mga kuko sa kanyang ulo habang nagsisimula na siyang magsisisigaw. Fitz helplessly sighed on the side. I'm not a slut. I'm not a fucking gold digger. I'm probably richer than your broke-ass family. You deserve the dirt. Patuloy ang aking paghila sa kanyang ulo at pananampal sa kanyang mukha. Lahat ng ginawa niya sa akin ay binalik ko. Lahat ng sinabi niya sa akin ay binawi ko. Sana ay naririto pa si Jessica dahil hindi nila ako maaawat. All my life, you made me feel like I didn't belong. You wore the royal crowns while I sweep the floor you walk on. This is for me. I slapped her, already red-faced, and released her. Tell Jessica she's next. I pointed at Fitz, who was rapidly dialing on his phone. Sandy was crying on the floor, clutching her face, full of scratches from my now broken nails. Dumiretso na ako patungong pinto at halos takbuhan ako ni Fitz. The bodyguard stood by my side. Don't you ever set foot in the South or you'll be sorry, I said as I left. At dito na po muna natin tatapusin ang ating pagbabasa sa ngayon. Kung nagustuhan mo ang episode na ito, pahit naman ang like button dyan at mag-comment down below. Kung hindi ka pa nakapag-subscribe sa aking channel, hit the subscribe button and bell all na rin para ma-notify ka kung kailan ang bago nating upload. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig at hanggang sa muli!